Welcome back to the Vandy Sports Podcast. I'm Joey Dwyer here late at night again after Vanderbilt's gritty 67-59 win against Fresno State. A quad two win at the moment for Vanderbilt. Ken Palm had Fresno State deep into quad three, but the net came out recently and had Fresno State at 77. So nice win on the resume of Vanderbilt. And so that was an encouraging win. Vanderbilt wasn't at their best. Only had 2 points from Jordan Wright. He was in pain for a lot of the second half, didn't really contribute much, was 1 for 7 from the field. But they got big contributions from Liam Robbins and Tyron Lawrence tonight. Robbins had 20 points, 8 blocks, and 7 rebounds, and was the story of the night. Liam Robbins announced tonight that, hey, I'm here. I'm going to be the big man on this team, and I'm going to assert myself tonight and show you that I can work a mismatch, show you all of my offensive skill set, and show you kind of how I can impact the game defensively as well. And he did all that tonight. Big night for Liam Robbins, 20 points, I believe is the season high. I think he tied it with Temple, or tied his scoring total against Temple tonight. So big night for Liam Robbins, and he was the story. He was the guy tonight for Vanderbilt. In the absence of Jordan Wright for a lot of that second half, Vanderbilt struggled, but they always had Liam Robbins to turn to, even when Vanderbilt was in that big scoring drought. The basket they did have there was the press break that resulted in Liam Robbins putting a guy on the poster and converting on the fast break. So big night for Liam Robbins, obviously, and that is certainly an encouraging sign. And probably the most encouraging sign you'll see from Vanderbilt tonight is just how well Liam Robbins played. 7 for 11 from the field, 1 for 3 from three, had 7 rebounds, including an offensive rebound. Stayed out of foul trouble for a lot of that game, had 4 fouls total, but a lot of those came late, and had 8 blocks, which is absurd, and played 33 minutes tonight in the absence of Quentin Malora-Brown, who was out with an illness. But man, was Liam Robbins good tonight. And I was a doubter that he could even play 30-plus minutes, and he played 30-plus minutes and was Vanderbilt's best player tonight. So a ton to like from Liam Robbins, and Vanderbilt wasn't at their best as a whole tonight. Liam Robbins was at his best, and probably one of the better outings we'll see from him all year. Tyron Lawrence also had a really good night, shot 50% from the field, 2 for 6 from three, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, and really just stepped into a bigger role in the absence of Jordan Wright for a lot of that second half, the absence of Miles Studi. Tyron Lawrence decided that he wanted to step up and be the guy. You saw just a different level of confidence from him tonight. He knew it was his stage, and to win this game, Vanderbilt had to get a lot from him. I think he struggled a little bit defensively in the first half, but man, was Tyron Lawrence good down the stretch. And him and Liam Robbins were the guys who stepped up tonight and won this game for Vanderbilt. They got 2 from Jordan Wright, 4 from Ezra Mannion, 16 from Miles Studi, who missed a lot of that second half with foul trouble. And you kind of just saw how valuable Wright and Studi were. Studi came in, hit a 3, I think, off the baseline out of bounds right when he came back in, and really just kind of set the tone for Vanderbilt. And he's their safety blanket. A lot of teams will have a post guy as their safety blanket. Miles Studi's the guy they go and draw up a look for when they're in a scoring rut. And when they didn't have him or Wright, who by all accounts is their best player on the floor, they really struggled. They had a 5-minute scoring drought. They gave up a 16-2 run. I think a 10-0 run was included in that 16-2 run as well. So Vanderbilt certainly did not have their best performance of the year, but they won it with their defensive identity. And I think that's why Jerry Stackhouse built it that way. He wanted them to force teams into turnovers, into bad shots. Vanderbilt won the turnover battle tonight. Didn't force a whole lot. Actually forced 4 less than Fresno State's average on the year. Forced a real low 3-point percentage from Fresno State, and just forced them into a lot of things that they didn't really want to do. And I think that was really important for Vanderbilt. Forced them into a 34% shooting percentage from the field, 4 for 23 from three. That's another thing I liked about Vanderbilt's offense, kind of going off Fresno State's 3-point percentages. They didn't really rely on the 3-ball tonight a whole lot. 23 threes is about normal. I think Miles Studi, I think whenever you want to give him a look from 3, you give it to him. But guys were confident out there tonight, but that wasn't their only source of offense. They had the post with Liam Robbins. They had the mid-range game with Tyron Lawrence a little bit. Liam Robbins also had some nice post fadeaways, and it just shows with Liam Robbins when he is on and when he's confident and rising up and taking his shots, there's not really anybody who can contest those shots. And if he's on, one of the harder players to stop on this Vanderbilt team. So big night for Liam Robbins. Can't overstate how important that was for Vanderbilt and how great of a sign that was. It's also a great sign that Vanderbilt found a way to win with their defensive identity, though. They forced Fresno State who albeit is a really poor offensive group, ranked outside the top 200 in KenPom on that end. They forced them into a lot of looks that they didn't want to take, forced them into a low shooting percentage, and just a really good night on that end for Vanderbilt. Although they didn't force the turnovers, didn't quite rebound, they still found a way to be effective on that end and to not let Fresno State run all over them. So big night on that end for Vanderbilt in a slow-paced game as well, which was really encouraging to see their offense kind of take off in a game like that. They only had 6 bench points, but it was a slow game, and Vanderbilt really seemed to be able to adapt to that. And I think it's good that they see 2 slow teams in a row, like Fresno State and St. Mary's, who both of which want to slow things down and want to kind of grind these games out. And Vanderbilt beat Fresno State at their own game tonight, and I think that's certainly an encouraging sign for them. Just a really good night for Jerry Stackhouse's team. A lot of teams, when you have to build a resume, aren't going to have their best every night, but the key to whether you're in the tournament or not is whether you're able to win when you don't have it. And Vanderbilt is going to have a tough time doing that in the SEC, but tonight you kind of saw the blueprint for it, and you saw what Jerry Stackhouse kind of imagined with this team. You wanted guys who can defend all over the floor. They didn't quite force the turnovers like they wanted to tonight, but on the offensive end, you also wanted kind of an offense by committee, to where they don't have a Scottie Pippen Jr. anymore, so they're not relying on one guy. If Jordan Wright doesn't have it like he didn't tonight, and he wasn't on the floor a whole lot, had 26 minutes, but a lot of that was used as a decoy, had back soreness as well, and that's a big development for Vandy. If he can't go against VCU on Wednesday, they have a lot of time, though, long week before VCU. But back to my point, Vanderbilt has 4 or 5 guys who they think they can rely on to kind of step up, maybe when a Jordan Wright doesn't have a great night, when a Miles Studi gets in foul trouble, maybe when Robbins gets in foul trouble. Those guys can step into bigger roles and kind of carry the team like Robbins and Lawrence did tonight. Studi played 30 minutes. Felt like he was out for a lot longer than he was, though, with that foul trouble, especially because him and Wright were off the floor at the same time. And it's clear they have great players. Outside of them, they have guys who can step up like they did tonight, but they need Jordan Wright and Miles Studi. Those are their 2 leading scorers, maybe not after tonight with the way Robbins scored, but those are their 2 kind of catalysts. Studi's their safety blanket, Wright's their go-to guy offensively, and they won without really anything from Jordan Wright tonight, which I think is encouraging, albeit not the best team. I think Fresno State's 1-5 now, but still a high team in the net, still a team that can really challenge you with their length and athleticism, and a team that is better defensively than they are offensively, and is a top 75 team, I believe, in KenPom defensively. So not a bad night at all for Vanderbilt. You couldn't go into Anaheim, take that 4 or so hour flight, and not get a win out of it. You had to get something out of that trip. You had to have a positive sign at least, and you had to have a win, no matter who it was against. Any of those wins would have been important for Vanderbilt, and they got a big one tonight, which I think I have a suspicion will probably end up as a quad 3 if Fresno State keeps this up, because I'm not sold that they're super awesome. But I do think this is an important win for Vanderbilt just to kind of get them back on track. They're back at 500 now, which I know doesn't matter with the tournament committee, but just having that confidence going into VCU that, hey, we got to win against a team that likes to grind games out. We beat them at their own game, and we've seen a big performance from essentially all of our main guys except for Ezra Mannion on the year. Colin Smith also hit a big shot tonight, which I think was really encouraging. Hit a shot to kind of keep their momentum flowing, and just to kind of keep them up late. So Smith, I think, is going to have a game throughout the year where it's like he's arrived, like Robbins had tonight. Didn't quite have that tonight and hasn't had that, but it's had really good stretches. And I think towards the end of the year, maybe he could be one of those guys to where if Wright or Studi or Lawrence or Robbins isn't having a great night, you can turn to Colin Smith and get a few buckets when you need them. So a lot to like from this team. Also a lot to not like from this team tonight, though. They were sloppy a lot of the time offensively. Had some kind of bonehead turnovers. Got out-rebounded by a lot. Didn't force a whole lot of turnovers. But there was also a lot to like. They shot 15 to 22 from the line, which isn't awesome for a normal team, but Vanderbilt hasn't got to the line a whole lot this year, and they haven't hit shots at a high level from the line this year. So that was encouraging. They had a positive assist to turnover ratio, and found a way to win when they weren't at their best. They didn't have their starting center tonight. They didn't have any of their three backup ball handlers, so their veterans had to play pretty much the entire night. Even when Jordan Wright went down with an injury, they still needed him to come back in the game. They didn't have their starting center for a lot of the night. They gave up a huge scoring drought, or they had a huge scoring drought, gave up a few big runs, just didn't really force the turnovers the way they wanted to defensively, and still found a way to win by 8 points and ice the game in a way they hadn't this year. So there's a lot to like from this Vanderbilt team heading into VCU next week. That's an important game for them. That I believe is a quad one game for them, actually, and one they really need to get just to kind of boost that resume out of conference, because going into kind of the home stretch of non-conference play with 4 losses is really discouraging for a team like this who finally get some positive momentum. They leave Anaheim determined to not go out with 2 losses. They do it, and you can't go back to square one next week. So Virginia Commonwealth is going to be an important game for them. And if they get contributions like they did tonight from Liam Robbins and Tyron Lawrence, they are going to be in a great position. They still have some growing to do as a group, but you can kind of see flashes from everyone and can see what Jerry Stackhouse was going for with this team. He wanted a team where multiple guys can step up, and you saw that tonight, even when his best player didn't have it. So not a bad night for Vanderbilt. They weren't at their best, but grinded out a win and avoided a disastrous trip to Anaheim. So thank you guys for watching. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Appreciate you if you're still sticking around late at night, and God bless. Thank you guys for watching. Peace.